Part 15. Dimensional Chosen, Only I Know Saitama is the Strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 141. Akainu's smile instantly froze on his face, causing chaos. Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. This is a name that scares countless Navy pirates. Now, this man was standing in front of him, feeling the huge pressure, and Akainu panicked. The molten arm expanded instantly, countless lava erupted from the wrist, and the temperature on the field increased sharply. What a hindrance! Whitebeard had a confident smile on his face, and the big knife in his hand was wrapped with air vibrations, and collided with the massive lava. Boom! The two people's attacks collided with each other, causing a deafening explosion. Fang Ye stood not far away, and Shen watched. He is not able to intervene in this kind of battle. If he joins in forcefully, he is likely to be accidentally injured. Besides, he is not worried about Whitebeard at all. In the original plot, Whitebeard, who was still alive, punched Akainu 3 times and fell to the ground. Escaped and hid in the fault of Marinefando. Now he was a Whitebeard full of blood, and Akainu could not hurt him. The sky and the earth were dyed red and white, and the collision of the two stirred up strong winds, and many pirates, both the Navy and the Navy, could not stand and fell to the side. Is that all it takes? During the collision, Whitebeard was able to move with ease, and the force of the sword in his hand became even stronger. Spider-web-like cracks were made in the air. The fruit was shaken. The effect of the fruit was so powerful that the Marinefando under his feet was beaten to pieces, and the two of them jumped. The location spreads. Go save Ace! Marco transformed into a phoenix and destroyed the last 2 cannons of the Navy. Ouch! Without the footprints of the giant cannon, Little Oz is walking on flat ground, striding forward. At every step, countless Marines are trampled into meat pies. At this moment, the Navy is retreating steadily, and Ace is about to be successfully rescued. Fang Ye stood high and looked at the battlefield, but he didn't feel relaxed at all. He knew that the Navy's strongest combat power had not yet appeared. When they take action, the battle situation is likely to be reversed again. On the execution platform, Ace and Luffy's grandfather, the naval hero Iron Fist Garp, squatted aside, his eyes extremely solemn. Originally, Ace's death was already destined, so that he struggled mentally countless times, wandering between family love and justice. But when he saw at the current scene, Garp's heart gradually became firmer. He is a naval hero and a symbol of the Navy. He cannot be ashamed of the word justice behind him. Brat, what are you doing? Why don't you follow the path I arranged for you? Sighing, Garp turned around and didn't dare to look at Ace, for fear that the psychological defense he had just established would be completely shattered after just one look. Smelly old man, promise me something. Ace looked at Garp's back and murmured softly. Before Garp could respond, Ace continued. Don't make things difficult for Luffy. Listening to Ace's words, Garp had already burst into tears. He nodded heavily. This was the last thing he could do for Ace. Is that guy finally planning to take action? Warring States stood on the stage, looking at Garp's retreating figure. He felt a little relaxed in his heart, but also a little uneasy. The overwhelming lava was defeated by Whitebeard with one strike. Akainu was shocked and retreated continuously. Helldog! With the help of the smoke generated by the explosion, Akainu hid behind, stretched his arms several times in an instant, turned into a magma punch and hit Whitebeard's chest. Drink! Whitebeard was in pretty good shape at this time. Although the pirates were in a good situation now, he was still not careless. The right fist he had prepared crashed into Akainu's Hades. Boom! There was another explosion on the field, stirring up countless smoke and dust. The ground gradually shattered, and this small island looked like it was going to completely collapse. I can't let you continue to act like this. In the smoke, Akainu stood up and said in a deep voice. If this continues, this island will not be able to hold on any longer. Oh, really? Whitebeard grinned, then his face turned gloomy and he said. Then just take good care of it. The two fought again, and Akainu's body turned into lava again, and the shape of his right arm gradually changed into that of a dog. The dog eats the red lotus. The right arm was extended, and the transformed lava dog seemed to have wisdom, and it rushed towards Whitebeard with its teeth and claws. Ho! Whitebeard didn't have that many bells and whistles. He chopped the lava dog away in one move and stretched out his big hand to shoot at Akainu. Ouch! The lava dog wailed, and it began to swell instantly, reaching the size of half a person in the blink of an eye. Like a fire-spewing volcanic bomb, the lava dog's explosion was so powerful that it instantly ignited a blazing flame and enveloped Whitebeard. Huh! Seeing the effect of this move, Akainu let out a long breath. Just when he was relieved, the flames in front of him suddenly stopped and then cracked. A huge figure rushed out from the fragments of the flames. He was in front of Akainu in an instant. The 3-meter-tall Akainu looked like a child in front of him. Screw you! Whitebeard spat, and fought Akainu in close combat. One punch knocked him far away. Catching the momentum, Akainu distanced himself, and at the same time fired several fire bombs with both hands. These fire bombs hit Whitebeard. Only played a slight role in blocking it, and couldn't even do any actual damage. Hell dog! Akainu suddenly burst out, stretching his arms several times to strike. Whitebeard was disturbed by the flame bombs, and he tilted his head urgently in the face of the sudden blow. The ghost dog wiped Whitebeard's face and hit a big skin burns. Ah! The injured Whitebeard roared, extremely angry. He stretched out his big hand, grabbed Akainu who was squatting on the ground, and threw him high into the sky. Hoo, ha! Whitebeard's left fist was wrapped around a white ball of light. He saw the right moment for Akainu to fall and punched him in the waist. The air was shattered every inch, and a dazzling light burst out. Akainu's face was turned pale by the reflection, and his body they were all twisted and deeply dented by the beatings. Damn you annoying piece of shit! Whitebeard roared angrily, and the strength in his hands suddenly increased. Puff! Akainu was beaten so much that he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards like a cannonball. Akainu! Behind the navy, Sengoku watched Akainu flying backwards, extremely anxious. Aokiji was also pestered by multiple captains of the Whitebeard pirates, and it looked like they wouldn't be able to solve it for a while. Kizaru was extremely exhausted, and he was sitting at the back. He looked at Garp's back, his eyes became very complicated, and even hid a hint of prayer. Cap, you bastard, let's be more reliable this time. At the same time, he was also prepared. If Garp became unreliable again, he would rush forward and be the first to subdue him. And, it's Whitebeard. If this continues, the red-haired pirates are coming, it must be resolved quickly. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and picked up the phone in his hand. Launch siege, let Gendarmerie bring his guys out. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 142. Boom boom boom. A large number of PX Bear robots suddenly appeared on the battlefield and began to attack the pirates. There were roars one after another, and several pirates were blown to pieces with each explosion. The indomitable Little Oz was also stopped at this time. His huge body was particularly eye-catching on the battlefield. A large number of PX Bear robots condensed light on their fingertips and shot it towards Little Oz. Boom boom boom. In just the first round of attacks, Little Oz was covered in blood and extremely embarrassed. Don't stop me from saving Ace! Little Oz roared angrily, waving the big knife in his hand and knocking away several robots in front of him. Prepare for the second round of attacks and kill him. Jean Momomaru commanded the battle robot behind him, holding a giant axe at the same time, and was wrapped in armed domineering energy, and he was killing Little Oz. Looking at the light gradually brightening in front of his eyes, Little Oz subconsciously hugged his head with both arms. "Hey, your opponent is me." Jean Doan was charging forward with a giant axe, preparing to destroy Jean Doan's feet and prevent him from moving forward. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him and punched him. Jean Doan subconsciously held the giant axe in front of him. Dang! Fang! Yes, fist collided with the giant axe, making a clanging sound of metal clashing. The huge force even made Jean Doan behind the giant axe fall back continuously, and his feet hit deep ravines on the ground. Such great power! Jean Doan barely stopped his retreat, put the giant axe aside, and looked at Fang Ye with a solemn expression. "I am Jean Momomaru, the tightest spoken and most defensive man in the world. Who are you?" "An ordinary pirate." Fang Ye looked at him with the same solemn expression. He had an impression of Jean Doan. Half of Jean Doan's self-introduction just now was true and half was false. His tone was the loosest that Fang Ye had ever seen. Every time they all said "I will never tell you" and then told others the information. However, Jean Momoan's defense was as outrageous as his tone of voice. According to Fang Ye's memory, Jean Momoan's domineering level was very high. Not only can the domineering force in the body be released, but it can even knock the opponent away without touching the opponent. This kind of domineering power will be even more terrifying if it goes further. It can even enter the enemy's body and start destroying it from the inside. Such a method, for a person with extremely high physical strength like Fang Ye, it is a very strong means of restraint. Fortunately, Jean Doan's strength has not reached this level yet. Hearing Fang Ye's answer, Jean Doan's face turned red, and suddenly angry. "You didn't even tell me your name. Are you looking down on me?" "Ha!" Fang Ye didn't know why. He just didn't want to expose his identity. If someone who also came to break into the forbidden area heard it, he would be in big trouble. Before he could explain, he saw a giant axe in one hand and a gap in the other. Kong clapped his hands. Suddenly, Fang Ye felt as if his body was hit by a big invisible hand and flew backwards. Drink. Although Jean Momomaru looks like a sumo wrestler, he is extremely fast. Watch me teach you a lesson. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant axe in Jean Doan's hand roared towards Fang Ye's neck. Fang Ye stabilized his body, facing Jean Doan's attack. His crisis sensor did not respond at all. Fang Ye suddenly "Don't worry." He didn't dodge, and stretched out his right hand to face the blow. Clang! Jean Doan's eyes widened, and the image of Fang Ye's palm and neck being cut open in his imagination did not appear. He tried to pull the giant axe back, but failed after several attempts. The giant axe seemed to have grown in Fang Ye's hands and did not move at all. Hateful, give me up. Facing Fang Ye, Jean Doan panicked like never before. He could clearly feel that the strength of the two of them was not at the same level. Quick, attack. Jean Doan gave up his giant axe and gave orders to the PX robots behind him. The next second, all the surrounding PX robots turned around, their fingertips glowed, and blasted towards Fang Ye. Boom! The light fell and a huge explosion sounded, stirring up smoke and dust all over the sky. A smile appeared on the corner of Jean Doan's mouth. Even Jean Doan needed to use all his armed haki to resist such an attack. He didn't believe Fang Ye could resist it. Jean Doan was about to leave. Suddenly I heard the sound of steady footsteps coming from the smoke, approaching step by step. You're not dead." Jean Doan was stunned. Not only was the pirate in front of him not dead, he wasn't even seriously injured. Whoa! Fang Ye threw the broken giant axe in his hand hard, and he followed suit. "Damn it, you can't hurt me, because I am the most defensive man in the world." Walking alone. With a loud shout, Jean Doan raised one foot, and his high-level domineering energy came out, heading towards Fang Ye. Boom! Fang Ye was knocked out again. Although no damage was caused, there was still a gap between the two of them. The distance opened again. By the way, I am not a capable person. Although I have no grievances against you, this is a task assigned to me by the old man, so just accept your fate. As he said that, Jean Momoan put on a sumo wrestling stance and hit Fang Ye with both hands. Walking alone. This is Jean Doan's only skill. It is very powerful and can even hurt the inside. After being carried hard twice, Fang Ye did not dare to continue to resist and ran away. He was extremely fast, and Jean Doan shot down Null. Don't run. With a loud roar, Jean Doan's body was wrapped in armed colors and he chased Fang Ye's back. How dare you come here? Fang Ye murmured in a low voice and smiled slightly. Then let you suffer. When Jean Doan entered his attack range, Fang Ye did not hesitate, turned around and punched. Boom! Jean Doan also responded with fists, and the two of them fought together instantly. Both of them have extremely strong defenses. Every collision would make a loud noise, and even if they were a little closer, the pirate navy could clearly feel their physical discomfort. Fang Ye was very strong, and although Jean Doan could withstand every punch of his, he was unable to the enemy. Every time there was a confrontation, Fang Ye would be beaten back several steps. Fang Ye took advantage of his own strength, and his fists became more dense, gradually making Jean Doan unable to bear it. Hateful. Jean Doan could feel that Fang Ye's fists were gradually increasing in speed, and he could no longer keep up, so he could only be beaten passively. A serious punch. Fang Ye gathered his strength and struck the strongest blow at Jean Doan, who was being beaten passively. Jean Doan's originally round body was more like a black ball at this moment. He was hit by Fang Ye's heavy punch without any suspense. It flew out and crashed into the back of the navy. Boom! Jean Momoru's body knocked a big hole out of the city wall, and he had to smash several walls in succession before he could stop. Hey, Jean Doan, are you okay? In the ruins, Jean Doan stood up and looked at the tall man in front of him. Old man, that pirate is very strong, what should we do? What to do? Kizaru looked at the battlefield leisurely and said slowly. Let's take a look first. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 143. On the other side of the battlefield, the battle between Whitebeard and Akainu continued. The two men fought with great force, and broken rocks and lava could be seen everywhere. Among them, Ching Pheasant intervened several times and even threatened Whitebeard's life. But in the end, he was knocked to the side by Jose. Next is the solo battle between Whitebeard and Akainu. Whitebeard is tall, and the supreme sharp knife in his hand, Kanjai Unki, is even taller than him. That's it? Standing there with one man and one sword, he seemed to have the momentum of thousands of troops. On the other side, Akainu and Whitebeard stood looking at each other. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve, his eyes cold. I didn't expect that this waning old man would still have such strong fighting ability. After being hit twice by Whitebeard, Akainu felt as if his body was about to split apart. Fortunately, he dissolved his body into slurry in time and melted the ground at the same time, allowing him to dive underground to hide. Otherwise, it will be a disaster. Sudden. Whitebeard's eyes widened and he looked horrified. His body was in extreme pain. Frequent use of the zhen fruit caused his old illness to relapse. Fang Ye noticed Whitebeard's condition and rushed over quickly. Dad is sick. While running, Fang Ye used the phone bug in his hand to communicate. This was given to him by Marco, and it comes in handy now. Don't let me find out what else you have up your sleeve. Mark glared at the whirlpool spider Skyard, and rushed to Whitebeard with flames all over his body. Skyard looked embarrassed, and when he woke up, he realized that this was Akainu's trap. And he was like this, stupidly fell for it and stabbed his father with a knife. Akainu, I'll kill you. With a groan, Squard also jumped off the boat and ran towards the direction of Whitebeard with all his strength. With a plop, Whitebeard fell to his knees weakly. His physical condition was now extremely bad, and his internal organs were in pain like a knife, making him lose all strength. Poof! Whitebeard spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his eyes gradually became blurred. Akainu also discovered something was wrong with Whitebeard. He quickly seized this opportunity and attacked with all his strength. It was his only chance to kill Whitebeard. Akainu's right arm quickly melted into molten material and expanded at an extremely fast speed. Hell dog! With a loud shout, Akainu aimed at Whitebeard's head. He wanted to kill him with one blow. This is Akainu's most powerful move. He is confident that this punch can directly smash Whitebeard's head. Whitebeard was still in a very bad state at this time, and he didn't even realize that the danger was coming. Dad! Marco yelled, watching helplessly as Akainu launched his skills towards Whitebeard, but he couldn't fly no matter what. Akainu! A familiar voice came from behind. At the same time, Akainu looked horrified and twisted his body with all his strength. He had a domineering look and had a premonition that a death threat was approaching him. He deflected his body with all his strength and saw a familiar figure at the same time. The weapon stabbed his throat at an extremely fast speed. Halashijashao. Oops. At this moment, he suddenly realized that as his body deflected, when he hit Whitebeard, the Hades also deflected. The terrifying fist passed through the air, almost grazing Whitebeard's face. Hit it! It left a horrific burn on Whitebeard's face. Akainu roared angrily and looked at the people approaching him, especially the young man who was wearing very ordinary clothes. Dare to ruin my good deeds! Akainu threw out a ball of magma, wrapped the Kailu stone Jushao heavily and dropped it to the ground. The Kailu stone Jushao disappeared into the magma at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone was anxious, but there was nothing they could do. In the end, the Kailu stone Jushao disappeared into the magma at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shishi's hand was melted, leaving only a handle. Let's see what you are going to use against me now. Akainu smiled and looked at them, and attacked Whitebeard again at the same time. Hell dog! Akainu's arms stretched out at an extremely fast speed, and he must kill Whitebeard. Dad! Marco screamed, blocking in front of Whitebeard at an extremely fast speed. Back off! At this time, Whitebeard had woken up. Looking at this fierce blow, he knew that there was no time to activate his ability. He stretched out a big hand and pulled Marco behind him. Dad! Marco struggled violently, but Whitebeard's hand was so strong that he couldn't get away safely. He saw that Akainu was about to hit Whitebeard with this punch. Suddenly, a figure rushed in front of Whitebeard at an extremely fast speed, and everyone didn't know what to do. Before he had time to react, the man was penetrated through the chest. You stupid boy, bastard! Whitebeard saw the person in front of him clearly, and he was so angry. He had never been so angry. He rushed forward, his huge fist wrapped in white light and pressed towards Akainu. Boom! Akainu felt like he was being attacked by this. It was as if he was locked with a punch, and there was no way to escape. He couldn't even come up with any means of resistance, and he was knocked to the ground by this punch. Drink! Whitebeard roared, the remaining blood spurted out from his mouth, and the shock fruit was activated at full power. Akainu was almost crushed and couldn't move. Hateful! Akainu realized that he would definitely die if he continued like this. He quickly elementalized his body. The hot magma instantly melted the surface of the earth, and Akainu took the opportunity to hide inside. Escape quickly. Old Dad, squared he. Looking at Skjard, who had his chest penetrated, Marco stammered and couldn't speak. Whitebeard ran over quickly and held Skjard in his arms. You brat, why don't you listen to daddy? Whitebeard stared, as if a father was reprimanding his disobedient son. But everyone around him could see that he was in grief now. His body, which was several meters tall, and only half of his beard, were all affected. Trembling under control. Old Dad. Skjard opened his mouth with difficulty and looked at Whitebeard. Old Dad, if everything's okay, just, okay, I'm fine. Dad, my son has a request. You say. Whitebeard looked at Skjard, who was gradually losing his vitality, and nodded quickly. Can you forgive me, Dad? You stupid son. Whitebeard cursed angrily, looked at his glasses and said seriously. I never blamed you. Then, I feel relieved, I must rescue, Ace. After saying that, Skjard's hand dropped weakly. Akainu's Hades pierced his chest and his internal organs were burned. It was a miracle that he could hold on until now. Whitebeard picked up Skjard and handed him into Marco's hands. Take him back. Yes, Dad. Marco spread his wings and instantly rushed into the sky, turning into a blue meteor and flying towards the Moby Dick. Bang! Whitebeard slammed the supreme sharp knife Kong Yunkai into the ground, causing gravel to fly. Marines, next, it's your turn to pay for it. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mungbean Garden. Chapter 144. The surrounding air is full of cracks, and it's terrifying. Whitebeard wields the supreme sharp sword, Kong Yunkai, like a god of war, invincible. There was nothing within a dozen meters around him. Stop him. Sengoku stood behind the navy, his voice extremely urgent, shouting at the phone bug in his hand. He could see that Whitebeard's attack was not to attack anyone. His goal was Marine Fando, Navy Headquarters. Tien Kanjiun Sword. Under the pressure of the Warring States period, Kizaru had no choice but to take action. He did not dare to get close, so he made the Aman Kanjiun sword extremely long and stabbed Whitebeard. Click. Kizaru's condensed Aman Kanjiun sword hit the crack in the air around Whitebeard, it collapsed without any surprise. See, it's no use what I said. Spreading his hands towards Warring States, Kizaru turned around and left. Hateful. Zenguo gritted his teeth. Although he always acted flustered, he was always panic-stricken. But at this moment, he didn't know what to do. Could it be that God is blessing the Whitebeard pirates? Every beheading campaign against Whitebeard was defused, which made Warring States have to think wildly. Suddenly, he thought of a person. Garp, go and stop Whitebeard. Sengoku's eyes moved quickly on the battlefield, and finally found Garp's figure. In front of him, Wang Luffy was driving in first gear, confronting him. Old man, get out of my way. Bang. Wang Luffy's fist hit Garp in the face and knocked him away hard. Cap, you bastard. Sengoku almost went crazy. All this is because of Garp's bastard family. Bang. Whitebeard slammed the supreme sharp knife in his hand to the ground. This blow was his full strength, triggering an earthquake, enough to destroy the whole of Marine Fando. When the pirates in the distance saw this scene, their eyes gradually became desperate. It's over, Whitebeard is going to destroy Malinvando, and we're all doomed. How is it possible? His pirates are obviously still on the island, are they going to be destroyed together? Where is General Akainu? Where is General Kizaru? Where is General Ching Pheasant? Take action quickly. Marshal of the Warring States period, take action quickly, only you can defeat these bastards on the sea. Boom, everyone's discussion was interrupted by a sudden explosion, and everyone looked over. That is, General Akainu. That's Admiral Akainu's trick against pirate ships. I've seen it before and I won't admit it. The Navy began to cheer. Meteor volcano. Akainu used his fists in the form of lava, and hit a large number of lava punches. And concentrated all the lava punches on one point, using all his strength to fight against the long sword of Whitebeard that was about to fall. Boom, boom, boom. Before the world, the sky and the earth were divided again by two colors, one red and one white, and the sound of explosions was endless. Feeling the vibration of the ground, no one among the pirates retreated, and they all shouted "Dad!" The collision between the two continued, and a time couldn't tell the difference between the winner and the loser. Whitebeard laughed loudly, and continued to use the sword in his hand. "Veteran, how are you going to protect this island from me? Stop talking nonsense." Akainu gritted his teeth. It was already very difficult to resist Whitebeard's attack. There was no time to argue with him. Fang Ye stood in the distance and watched the battle between the two. He couldn't intervene, but the battle situation had been decided at this time. When the red hair arrives, the Whitebeard pirates will be victorious. Suddenly, he noticed the figure running towards the execution platform, and Fang Ye's eyes moved. Then, let me help you understand another regret. With a few jumps, Fang Ye disappeared from everyone's sight. Luffy fought all the way and was exhausted now. If Yvonne hadn't injected him with exciting hormones, he would have fallen on the battlefield long ago. Just now, he solved the naval hero Garp with one punch and ran towards the execution platform desperately. Luffy. Looking at Warring States standing next to him, Ace shouted. "You and I are both pirates, there is no need for you to do this. Stop talking nonsense." Ace was stunned and looked at Wang Luffy who was scolding him. "I don't care what you say, I know I have to rescue you, just wait." Wang Luffy suddenly turned around and jumped high into the air. Rubber machine gun. In an instant, Wang Luffy knocked down all the marines who were chasing him. Not far away from him, a man with sharp eyes and a black knife stared at him without blinking. "Redhead, I'm sorry." After saying that, he swung his sword. The green sword light cut into pieces the frozen sea surface, heading towards Wang Luffy. Ah! Wang Luffy rolled over and barely dodged the blow. Actually escaped. What's next? Hawkeye my hawk held the knife with one hand and fired several shots until the knife flashed. "You. But I am getting farther and farther away from your brother," Hawkeye said indifferently. "Hateful." Wang Luffy kicked his feet on the ice and punched Hawkeye. "That's it?" The always indifferent Hawkeye was almost amused, and he slashed with the black knife in his hand. Rubber scapegoat. Wang Luffy's arm suddenly stretched out, dragging a person out of Crocodile Sandstorm Tornado. Whoops! That person was undoubtedly cut in two by Hawkeye. "Don't drag me." The person who was cut open in Wang Luffy's hand actually made a sound. It turned out to be Bucky. Wang Luffy looked at the clown in his hand, smiled and scratched his head, and then Bucky was thrown at Hawkeye. Swish, swish. Hawkeye raised his knife and cut Bucky into noodles. "Is your kid my hawk?" the Hawkeye. Noodle Bucky was very angry. He felt that he had been humiliated. "Go ahead, Bucky's special bomb." "That's it?" Hawkeye was disdainful again and used his knife to deflect the bomb thrown by Bucky. Boom, the bomb hit Bucky and created a huge explosion, blowing him and his men away together. "Thanks, Bucky." Luffy rushed out of the smoke, smiled and waved to Bucky who was blown away, and at the same time looked at Hawkeye my hawk behind him. A strange figure was fighting with him. But he looked like a pirate. "Go and save your brother, be careful of Kizaru." Feeling Wang Luffy's gaze, Fang Ye shouted without looking back. "Thank you very much, I don't know what the name of the pirate is, hee hee." Fang Ye smiled nonchalantly and looked squarely at Hawkeye Mihawk in front of him. He had just entered the world of pirates, and Hawkeye Mihawk triggered his crisis sensor for the first time, and his reaction was very strong. "Who are you?" "An ordinary pirate." Raising the black knife in his hand, Hawkeye Mihawk decided to teach the man in front of him who disrespected him a lesson. At this moment, Fang Ye's scalp was numb, his eyelids were trembling, and a layer of goosebumps appeared on his body. Dangerous. Fang Ye did not hesitate and left the place in a flash. The next second, a blade of light broke through the ice from the ground. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 145. Hawkeye takes action. That Hawkeye, who had his own way of doing things, actually took action himself. His strength was truly terrifying. Kizaru stood up and looked at the battlefield with a shocked expression. The eagle eyes on the battlefield were sharp. The bright sword light illuminated the faces of the people around him. Fang Ye looked at the place where he was standing. The ice exploded and the sword light spurted out, like a volcano erupting. Recalling his crisis response just now, Fang Ye broke into a cold sweat. Looking at this sword, he would definitely be injured. The response was quick. Looking at Fang Ye, who escaped from death, Hawkeye Mihawk said coldly. Hawkeye knew that his attack was already a sneak attack. But he didn't expect that the pirate in front of him seemed to react in advance, and in his sneak attack unscathed. Seeing and hearing. He has the same doubts as Fang Ye's other opponents. Then let's see which one is faster, you can dodge faster, or my knife. Eagle Eye's eyes were cold, and he regarded Fang Ye as a moving target. Holding the black knife with both hands, he slashed forward with all his strength. Swish! A green knife light burst out, exuding a sharp aura. The air was blown by the knife, the light split, and even the clouds in the sky seemed to be split in half, heading straight towards Fang Ye. What a powerful attack! Fang Ye's eyes were shocked. Just now, he had the same reaction. Naturally, he would not be hit by this move. After a moment of movement, Fang Ye dodged the blow again. Come again! With a cold shout, Mihawk slashed out with another knife. The current situation is too passive and cannot continue like this. Fang Ye murmured in a low voice while dodging this fatal blow. We must turn passivity into initiative. Thinking about it, Fang Ye's body moved again. Fang Ye stepped forward and came straight towards the light of the sword. Looking for death. Eagle Eye Mihawk looked at Fang Ye's actions and thought he was out of his mind. He is known as the world's greatest swordsman, and the sword in his hand is the supreme knife 12 skills, the strongest in the pirate world. Black knife, knight. No one can resist his knife attack. Looking at Fang Ye facing the sword light, Mihawk smiled disdainfully. His golden eyes gradually narrowed. But in the next moment, Mihawk resumed. He raised the black knife and assumed a fighting posture. The scene of Fang Ye being split into two by the light of the knife did not appear. He only saw Fang Ye turning slightly sideways when facing the light of the knife. He stepped forward and made a slight translation, dangerous and dangerous. Dodged this move. What a strong body control. Eagle Eye's gaze gradually became solemn. Fang Ye was moving very fast just now, and it was difficult for ordinary people to make such dangerous moves. But Fang Ye did it. Mihawk sighed, thinking that he had to re-understand. He looked at the opponent in front of him. He held the knife in both hands and looked at Fang Ye, who was already approaching. Whitebeard pirates. Hawkeye is used to calling his opponent's name before a fight, but the guy in front of him didn't tell him his name, so he had to use the name of the other party's pirate group instead. Hawkeye Mihawk. Fang Ye squinted his eyes and looked at the eagle eye. I have to say that his eagle eyes are very suppressive. This is his exclusive ability, Eagle Vision, which is the god of eagle eyes that can fight against enemies of any strength. Marrow. The two of them were very close, so Fan Ye stopped being polite and immediately got into an attack. A serious punch. Without saying much, Fan Ye came up and attacked with all his strength. Fan Ye stepped forward and punched fiercely at Hawkeye my hawk. The golden eyes shrank, and Hawkeye instantly captured Fan Ye's movements. He placed the black knife in front of him in a defensive posture. Clang! The black knife was shaken by the beating. Hawkeye used the momentum of Fan Ye's fist to try to distance himself again. Not that simple. Fan Ye smiled slightly, and followed up quickly. He had finally closed the distance, how could he just pull it away? The eagle eye captured Fan Ye's movements again, but this time he changed his tactics. He used both hands holding the knife, he slashed hard at the approaching Fan Ye. Attack is the best defense. Whoosh! Fan Ye rolled again and missed the light of the knife. Behind him, the light of the knife struck the ground and sent ice chips flying, creating ravines and ravines. Very strong attack power, worthy of being the strongest Shichibukai. Secretly sighing in admiration, Fan Ye stepped forward again. Although Eagle Eye's attack was very fierce, he never attacked Fan Ye. Seeing Fan Ye approaching again, Eagle Eye's face became solemn, and he raised his knife and struck. This time it was not sharp. The light of the sword was just a simple blow. At this second, Fan Ye's heart was beating wildly, and he jumped away without saying a word. The black sword struck the ground heavily with its invincible power. Click! The ice cracked. My hawk stared with both eyes and locked Fan Ye's position again. Another slash with the knife. Fan Ye turned slightly to the side, and at the same time, he directly hit the side of the black knife with his right fist, knocking him away. So much strength. Hawkeye my hawk felt that his hand was numb from the shock, but he still held the knife in his hand firmly. Seeing Fan Ye attacking him, he was forced to defend himself. Sonorous. There was another sound of metal hitting, and the black knife was shaken again. The eagle's eyes bared its teeth, looking a little unbelievable. He has encountered countless enemies in his life, even the red-haired Shanks, one of the 4 emperors, is his opponent. But no one has ever put so much pressure on him. Not a person with fruit abilities, it's not domineering either. Eagle Eye my hawk stared at Fan Ye. His pair of eagle eyes had the ability to see through the enemy, and he instantly understood the difference between Fan Ye's abilities and others. But this terrible power. The eagle eyes looked at Fan Ye, and an answer gradually emerged in his mind. Are you a giant? Ha! Fan Ye listened to Eagle Eye's outrageous question, as if he was standing in front of him, and asked seriously, how do you think I look like a giant? Soon, the two began to fight with each other. Eagle Eye also successfully found the unloader. Fan Ye's powerful method. His black sword is a soft knife, which can not only release powerful and long-distance cuts. At the same time, Fan Ye's fist hits it, and it can also act as a buffer. Although their fight, the blow was so powerful that the ice almost cracked. But neither of them could do anything to each other. Hawkeye slashed, and Fan Ye could sense it in advance. Fan Ye punched seriously, and Hawkeye used a black knife to relieve the force. The two fought. Inseparable. Boy, let me do it. A rough voice came from behind. Foil Bista. This is a two-sword swordsman with 2 western swords and 2 mustaches. He is equally powerful and is one of the best swordsmen. The legendary world's greatest swordsman. As a swordsman, how could he not want to start a duel? Foil Bista stood in front of Fan Ye with a calm smile on his face. Captain of the 5th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, Foil Bista. Looking at the man in front of him and Fan Ye, who turned around and ran away. Hawkeye also assumed a fighting posture. Joracole my hawk. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Bean Garden. Chapter 146. Fang Ye is not worried about Baista. Although his strength is definitely not as good as Hawkeye my hawk. But at the same time, the world's best swordsman should not be too far behind. And there are more important things waiting for him to do. The aftermath of the battle between Whitebeard and Akainu has destroyed all the buildings on the island. He deserves to be the strongest man, yet he is so strong. Malinfando is going to be destroyed. Marshal of the Warring States period, take action quickly. If no one stops Whitebeard, Malinfando will really be destroyed. The pirates behind felt the island shaking and couldn't help but talk. Shut up, if you disturb the morale of the army again, you will end up like the pirates. A lieutenant general with a higher official rank waved his sword fiercely. Everyone quickly shut up. He is indeed the strongest man in the world. He is indeed very strong. Akainu was seriously injured again and temporarily fled the battlefield while vomiting blood. The collision between the two shattered the sea surface, and ice shards flew high into the sky. Countless people lost their footing and fell down. Even Straw Hat Boy Wang Luffy was unavoidable. The ice beneath his feet shattered and he fell down. Straw Hat, reach out. A voice came from the ice, and at the same time, it grabbed Wang Luffy's outstretched arm. As the arm contracted, Wang Luffy once again stood on a piece of stable ice. It's you again, the unknown pirate. Wang Luffy looked at the familiar face in front of him, smiled and scratched his head. It was Fang Ye. May I have your name? Wang Luffy also asked Fang Ye's name. Fang Ye ignored him and looked up at the execution platform. Straw Hat, have you got your keys? Take it with you. Wang Luffy patted his pocket obediently, and the key was inside. Very good, I'll send you up. Fang Ye pointed to the execution platform, and then lifted the confused Wang Luffy up. Before he could react, Wang Luffy was like a huge rubber band, being pulled very long by Fang Ye. The next second, Fang Ye let go. Wang Luffy was like a rubber band that separated from his hand, flying straight towards the execution platform. Thanks. Wang Luffy made a gesture of thanks in mid-air, turned around and looked towards the execution platform. Sure enough, this speed was much faster than his breakthrough on the battlefield. He arrived at the execution platform in a short time. Ace. Wang Luffy gasped, stood in front of Ace, and kept taking out the keys from his pocket. I'm finally here, I'm here to save you. Said, took the key and went to find the keyhole. Straw Hat Boy, you look down on me too much. The face of Sengoku on the side was gloomy. This Straw Hat Boy actually ignored him and went directly to rescue Ace. How could he endure this? He was not Garp, so there was no way he could show mercy to them. Sengoku seemed to have walked out of the darkness, his body rapidly expanding. The whole person is like the Buddha coming into the world, the golden light is shining, and the entire Malinfando is illuminated. You wouldn't think, can you escape from my hand? Warring State's body turned into a golden Buddha, which was extremely powerful. The entire execution platform was precariously pressed and might collapse at any time. Big Buddha. Everyone looked at all this with wide eyes, and a feeling of powerlessness suddenly surged throughout their bodies. The Warring States period took action. At this time, Wang Luffy found the keyhole and was about to open the lock. There is such a thing. Kizaru stood in a corner and said slowly. At the same time, a golden light condensed in his hand. The next second, the key in Wang Luffy's hand broke. Straw Hat Boy, you are also a heinous sinner. Warring States raised his right fist high, and the entire giant Buddha flew into the air. Let me end you. Mr3, use your candle to protect Ace. Wang Luffy said as he bit his hand and his whole body swelled up like a balloon. Rubber giant ball. The next second, Sengoku's fist was still coming, beating Wang Luffy to blood. However, this punch happened to be received, and no casualties were caused. Boom, the execution platform finally couldn't hold on, and the wooden pillars collapsed directly, and everyone couldn't help it. Avoid falling. Candyman, use your ability to make a key. Without the obstruction of the three generals, Hawkeye and others, Fang Ye was walking on the battlefield as if on a level ground. Seeing the Warring States period transform into a giant Buddha, Fang Ye knew what would happen next and rushed to the execution platform. He successfully caught the temporarily incapacitated ace. Fang Ye whispered to the Candleman. "Yes, why didn't I think of that?" The Candleman slapped his head. When he woke up, the broken key fell right in front of his eyes. Soon, a candle squeezed out of his palm. "Use this to save Ace." The Candleman saw what the key looked like just now. At this moment, he took advantage of the chaos and quickly condensed a key with a candle and handed it to Luffy. "Thank you." Luffy grabbed the key and unlocked the seafloor stone handcuffs with 3 strokes, 5 divided by 2. "Do you think you are destined to leave like this?" The surrounding temperature dropped sharply. Several people looked up and found King Pheasant standing in front of them. "General Kuzan." The Navy on the side looked at Aokiji's back with excitement. If Aokiji doesn't come, they will soon be attacked by several pirates in front of them. They didn't dare to think too much and ran away at the same time. Fang Ye searched quickly and found Diamond Josa lying not far away. King Pheasant took advantage of his distraction and froze his entire arm. "Luffy, you guys go help Josa, I'll take care of the rest." Ace smiled confidently and his body was ignited with flames. "You underestimate me too much." Aoki's face was cold, and he was surrounded by absolute zero. Two-thorn spear. The cold air instantly condensed into several spears in mid-air, and with a wave of King Pheasant's hand, the spears shot out. Divine Fire Shiranui. Ace flicked his hands, and the same amount of flames shot out, instantly covering Aoki's spear. Sizzling, the ice spear was burned by the flames, making a sizzling sound, and a large amount of steam evaporated and floated into the sky. "The strength is good." Looking at Ace, who stopped him easily, Aokiji's expression turned solemn. At the same time, he spread out his hands and charged up a blow. Violent mouth. Countless cold air surged out of King Pheasant's body. It gradually condensed into an iceberg more than 10 meters high in front of him, let out a sharp cry, and rushed towards Ace. Mirror fire. Ace didn't give in, and half of his body was ignited by the fire. With one hand, a wall of fire emitting terrifying heat suddenly appeared. Boom! The wall of fire collided with the flapping iceberg. The water vapor was carried by the wind. It was blowing, whistling and blowing to everyone. "What's this?" Some people looked at him in surprise, with dull expressions. The pirates around him were all shocked. Is this the young pirate on the execution platform? He survived the attack of General Kuzan without any damage. At the same time, their eyes noticed Ai Fang Ye behind Si. This one is even more terrifying, God of Death. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 147. Run. Ace took Luffy, and the two broke through the smoke and wanted to join the Whitebeard pirates. Stop them. The Navy noticed them and rushed over here. Fire. Boom boom boom. The Navy pulled the trigger mercilessly. Countless shells rained down on the two of them, looking extremely terrifying. Get out of the way. Ace blocked Luffy behind him, and at the same time his body ignited with blazing flames, and he crossed his arms. Yang Yan. The arms turned into flames, blocking the cannonballs in mid-air one by one, causing explosions in the sky. Tsuna on fire. Ace threw out a ball of flame, which exploded the moment it hit the ground, spraying out a large amount of flames like a bomb. Sharp. Luffy looked at the road divided by flames in front of him and couldn't help but admired. Ace smiled slightly and led him to run away quickly. Rubber, machine gun. Crossfire. The two of them ran while throwing out attacks, knocking away the jumping Navy. For a moment, no one could stop the two of them. Ace. A dull voice came from behind, and Ace looked shocked. Luffy, run. Pushing Luffy hard, Ace turned around decisively. He saw that the ground behind him had been melted, and Akainu, who was covered in lava, was standing behind the two of them at some point, looking straight at them. Akainu. Ace, he's still alive. Erect the hat with the word justice written on it. Akainu's right arm suddenly became elemental, and he struck decisively. Fire punch. Ace's right arm also turned into a huge super high temperature flame, and at the same time it quickly stretched out to meet Akainu's fist. This is Ace's common skill, and it is also his most proficient move. If it were normal, Ace's punch it was enough to sink 5 ships. But now, after colliding with Akainu's fist, he couldn't move forward at all. Ace. Luffy yelled, stepping forward to help Ace. Let me do it. A figure about the same height as Ace appeared and stood in front of Luffy. Who are you? Luffy looked at it for a while and said uncertainly. Unknown pirate. Fanya nodded and charged up a punch at the same time. A serious punch. Fanya's casserole-sized fist suddenly punched out, with an invincible momentum, and hit Akainu. Boom. Fanya's fist had a huge impact on Akainu. The explosion broke a big hole in his body. The word justice on Akainu's back was burned by the spouting lava, and at the same time, a trace of blood flowed out of the corner of Akainu's mouth again. Hateful. With a grunt, Akainu jumped high into the air. Fanya's sneak attack made his already serious injury even more uncomfortable. Damn little devil. Akainu gritted his teeth and looked at Fanya in front of him, wishing he could skin him and convulse him. Although Fanya's strength is not the strongest among pirates, it is a variable that the Navy has not taken into account. And Akainu could faintly feel that Fanya seemed to know what was going to happen next. Could it be that his knowledge of seeing, hearing, and color has been cultivated to this point? Akainu began to doubt Fanya's strength. If he could predict the future for a short time, then his domineering power must have reached an unheard of level. In this case, Fanya's danger level will rise to another level. Hateful. Sengoku's fist hit the collapsed stone pillar bitterly. They were clearly right in front of me, but I let them escape like that. Damn it. Warring State's clothes were torn, and his face was full of regret. At the same time, Whitebeard also stood up. Imp. But Whitebeard doesn't feel good either. The skin on his face has been burnt and the clothes on his body are also torn. He is no longer the young Whitebeard. Just being Akainu makes him very difficult to deal with. Akainu even threatened his life several times. Whitebeard's eyes were a little dim, but they were quickly replaced by determination. Listen up, Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard slammed the Kongyunkai in his hand to the ground, and said to the pirate behind him. Now I give you 2 choices. 1. Say goodbye to me, continue to live, and return to the New World safely with the flag of the Whitebeard pirates. 2. Whitebeard took a deep breath and shot 2 rays of light from his eyes. Navy headquarters. Anyone who is not afraid of death, come with me. Today we will clash with this group of navies to see who is the real maritime overlord. Whitebeard was so arrogant, the pirates were so morale, they all raised their steel knives high. Dad. Looking at the serious Whitebeard, all the pirates were moved. Dad is standing in front of us, why should I hesitate? Jinguduo, the captain of the 11th Squadron, chopped down the navy in front of him with one sword and raised the big sword in his hand. Count me in. Today I, Lack, vow to live and die with my father. The person who spoke had brown dreadlocks and was holding a huge meteor hammer in his hand. It was very intimidating. The meteor hammer in his hand had been dyed red with blood, and countless sailors had their heads smashed by it. Watching them proceed one after another, Baybeard smiled happily. Then, he became serious again. No one has returned to the ship. Do you want the Whitebeard pirates to disappear? He shouted loudly, and then Whitebeard turned around and looked at the people behind him. Captains of teams 13 and 14, lead your men to break out and return to the ship. What, Dad? The 6-meter-tall Buffalo Atmos was holding 2 giant knives and stood there at a loss. Similarly, Speedokill, who held a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, was also at a loss. What are you waiting for? Izzo, you should follow and escort them back to the ship. The beautiful man in female clothes looked shocked and said in a panic. Dad, how could I? Stop talking nonsense. Whitebeard interrupted coldly and continued. If you don't listen to Daddy. Sighing, Whitebeard did not say the second half of the sentence. Yizang's face was ugly. How could he want to live an ignoble existence? But just as Whitebeard thought, he was one of the few people on the entire ship who would not let his emotions overwhelm his rationality. If you don't listen to Whitebeard's orders, it is very likely that the entire Whitebeard pirates will be here today. Yes, Dad. Yizang made up his mind, gritted his teeth, turned around, and said to the pirate behind him. Come back to the boat with me. Team leader. Stop talking nonsense. Yizang had a fierce look in his eyes, holding 2 pistols and pointing them at the person who just spoke. Are you going to disobey Dad's orders? The pirate didn't dare to speak. He could see the deep pain that he had hidden in Izzo's twinkling eyes. Yes, Captain. The rough man couldn't help crying either. He held a steel knife and left with the people behind him. Led by them, the pirates gradually returned to the ship one after another. Looking at their backs, Whitebeard smiled. Don't blame Dad, this may be Dad's last order. After saying that, he turned around again and looked at the Navy headquarters. Brats, are you ready? Whitebeard laughed and scolded, and asked the captains around him. Of course Dad, I'll clear the way for you. Marco turned into a flame and rushed forward at an extremely fast speed. He, who has always been extremely rational, finally released his nature at this moment. Marco laughed and kicked away countless pirates in front of him. Ha ha ha, I'm here to clear the way for Daddy too. Leok threw the meteor hammer in his hand heavily. Several pirates' bodies were shattered by this blow, and they quickly flew backwards while vomiting blood. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 148. Get behind me, little ones. Whitebeard shouted. After confirming that there was no one from the Whitebeard pirates in front of him, he struck hard in front of him with his casserole-sized fist. Click. The air in front of him was like glass, and it instantly cracked under Whitebeard's fist, making a crisp sound. The surrounding navy looked at the effect of this blow with pale faces. This guy, planning to destroy the entire Malinfando. Malinfando is going to die, run away. My money is still in the headquarters. No, I need to get it. Run quickly, you'll die if you're too late. Warring States stood on the ruins with serious eyes. This family plans to let Malinfando sink to the bottom, along with his own life and those pirates. This old guy is really willing to go out of his way. Sighing, Warring States never thought that Whitebeard would do this. Hiss, ah. Garp also climbed out of the ruins and patted the dust on his body. It's really a good time to say goodbye to the times. The two stood together, looking at Whitebeard with an unprecedented serious look. This is Malinfando, the headquarters of the Navy. If Malinfando sinks, it is no different than letting someone else push it. In this way, the Navy's prestige at sea will also a sudden fall. They must not allow this to happen. Garp smashed the stone in front of him angrily. Whitebeard, That bastard. Leaping forward, Garp joined the battlefield. Ace, take your brother and leave quickly, don't worry about mother-in-law and mother-in-law, Dad has already made a final decision. Fang Ye pushed Ace hard and blocked them behind him. But. No but. Fang Ye said sharply. If you die on the battlefield now, wouldn't that make Dad's previous efforts in vain? Listening to Fang Ye's words, Ace's eyes began to twinkle. What Fang Ye said was correct, but Ace just can't let go of his guilty heart. Now that I see Whitebeard going to war with the Navy, I feel that it is caused by the existence of myself, the son of the devil. Ace. Whitebeard turned around and looked at Ace behind him. Dad. Ace looked at the scarred Whitebeard, and his eyes instantly turned red. They were all hurt because of him. No need to say more, Ace, I just want to ask you one question. Whitebeard looked at Ace tenderly and said softly. How does it feel to have a dad like me? Thump. Ace didn't say anything, and knelt down heavily in the direction of Whitebeard. He was extremely strong in his life. He had never seen his parents. He had never knelt down to anyone in the many years he had dominated the sea. Now kneeling, among them the meaning is self-evident. Whitebeard smiled happily. He looked around, his eyes wandering over his silly sons. These are all his family members. Turning around abruptly, Whitebeard's eyes were cold, making many sailors pale. How can this old man still have such terrifying fighting power? He is indeed the strongest man in the world. Zhang Guo took a breath and looked at Whitebeard with an extremely fierce look. He wanted to eat him alive. Drink. Whitebeard raised the big knife in his hand high and smashed it down hard. Boom. Just the collision of strength caused a lot of dust in front of Whitebeard. The ground cracked, and the pirates around him looked in despair at the impact. The high ground was shot up, causing countless casualties. What a terrifying strength, stop him quickly. A lieutenant general commanded the navy behind him with fearful eyes, and another group of people suddenly surrounded him. Stay out of the way. Whitebeard grabbed a hand in the air, and the air instantly deformed. Then, as he pulled hard, everyone who rushed up in front of him suddenly staggered. Ouch, if you continue to act like crazy, Malinfando will be destroyed. Kizaru's tone was awkward, but the look he looked at Whitebeard was solemn as never before. You brat, don't ask for trouble. As he said that, Whitebeard slashed forward with a big knife. Kizaru's pupils shrank suddenly, and he did not dare to resist. He directly elementally transformed his whole body into light particles and left immediately. Boom. Kong Yunqi stirred up a large amount of energy on the ground. Smoke and dust, the ground cracked every inch. Kizaru's body condensed in the distance, and he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. It's really scary. At the same time, golden light began to condense in his hands, rising high into the sky. 8-foot Megatama. I actually let you run away. But it doesn't matter, you will die by my hands soon. Looking at Wang Luffy and the Ace brothers, Akainu gathered his body from the ground and quickly chased after them. He was very fast and gradually approached the two of them. Luffy run. Ace took action, but he had been imprisoned for a long time and now he has no physical strength. What's more, Akainu is very serious this time. Click. The moment the fists collided, Ace's left arm made a heartbreaking sound of bone cracking. Ace. Seeing Ace injured, Fang Ye appeared in time. Take your brother and run away. With a roar, Fang Ye waved his fist and rushed towards Akainu. Although Akainu was seriously injured, his strength cannot be underestimated. After just a few moves, Fang Ye triggered a crisis sensor. Hell dog. Akainu's body turned into fiery lava, and he punched out a red fist, heading straight for Fang Ye's abdomen. With a sharp look, Fang Ye quickly dodged. The power of this punch is self-evident. In the original plot, Whitebeard's Akainu's punch penetrated his body and burned his internal organs. Dodging this fatal blow, Fang Ye stepped forward again and directly charged up a punch. Boom! Akainu was blown away half of his body. The blood-red lava fell from the wound was dripping, melting the rock under his feet. Fang Ye jumped far away, his eyes serious. Yes, although this punch seemed to be very effective, it did not cause substantial damage to Akainu. At the last moment, Akainu removed the body elements Hua. Fang Ye's fists had no effect on him at all. Boy, you are strong. Akainu dragged his broken body out of the smoke and spoke slowly. But now that you don't have the Halo Stone, or even the armed color Haki, you will definitely die. While speaking, Akainu's body has recovered. He straightened his hat, and his feet quickly turned into lava. The next second, the whole person was launched like a missile, rushing toward Fang Ye with lava emitting high temperatures. Hell dog! Fang Ye's scalp was numb, and he quickly dodged it without even thinking. He barely managed to dodge the blow, and Akainu's fist grazed Fang Ye's scarf and struck him. He tore off the ignited scarf, revealing Fang Ye's short hair. Do you want to continue? Fang Ye looked at the panting Akainu with serious eyes. Indeed, he was still worried about other things. He knew very well that this forbidden area was not a single player, and there were many people like him who were watching. There were even quite a few. People are on the side of the Navy. After all, according to the introduction in the textbook, the Navy won in the end. There were many masters there, so it was relatively safer. Although at this time, many students like him had already found a safe place to hide. But Fang Ye does not rule out that there are very powerful people among them who are still fighting. Don't be distracted. Looking at Fang Ye who seemed to be distracted, Akainu suddenly got angry. He punched Fang Ye hard with a punch. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dimensional Chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 149. Akainu punched out with a bang, bringing terrifying lava straight to Fang Ye's head. However, he still underestimated Fang Ye. Crisis sensing is not something that can be blocked. Fang Ye's crisis sensing is similar to the domineering power of seeing and hearing, but it is obviously more buggy. Similar to passive skills, it does not have range and ability limitations like seeing and hearing colors. No matter what kind of attack it is, it can be sensed. Fang Ye once again easily escaped Akainu's surprise attack, and his expression became grim at the same time. It's really a waste of food and salt. After glancing at Akainu, Fang Ye was ready to fight him again. However, Fang Ye was not sure that he could kill Akainu. At the same time, he was still worried about one thing. Ace was rescued, and those who chose the Navy side were very worried. He may take action at all costs. The scene is not as optimistic as it seems. Suddenly, a huge figure appeared behind Akainu, and Fang Ye stopped what he was doing. A sharp sword flashed past, and Akainu was panting. He found himself shrouded in shadow. Akainu's hair suddenly exploded, and a bad premonition came into his heart. Bang! There was an explosion behind Akainu, and then his whole person was shrouded in shadow. Akainu! Akainu turned his head in panic, and was met with Whitebeard's angry eyes and fists as big as casseroles. Ah! Boom! With a heavy punch and the ability to shake the fruit, Akainu was knocked directly into the ground by Whitebeard. Hateful! Akainu struggled to get up with blood on his head and face. But he saw Whitebeard jumping up high, with white light wrapped around his feet, kicking towards him. Oops! Turning hastily, Akainu dodged the fatal blow. Drink! Whitebeard dragged his sword to catch up and slashed at him with a bang. Akainu rolled away again, and his right fist quickly became elemental, firing out several rounds of fire bombs. Whitebeard blocked several rounds with his sword, but was still burned by the last fire punch. Lost half of my beard. Drink. Akainu roared angrily and kicked Whitebeard. However, he was knocked away by Whitebeard's punch and rolled on the ground for a long time before he stopped. Whitebeard followed up and tried to hit him. Boom. Suddenly, Akainu's body became elemental. Exploded instantly. A large amount of lava spurted out, and at the same time, a large amount of smoke obscured Whitebeard's sight. Helldog. Seeing that this blow had an effect, the magma once again gathered into the shape of Akainu, and at the same time punched Whitebeard. Careful. Fangya noticed the fighting here and ran over quickly. In the original plot, Whitebeard was punched through the body by Akainu, his internal organs were completely burned, and he died of serious injuries. Fangya watched Akainu rush. The extended lava fist approached from the side, and flew up to kick Akainu. Bang! Akainu, who was also seriously injured, was kicked by Fangya, and his body tilted to one side. At the same time, the ghost dog did not have enough back force, but the skin on Whitebeard's chest was scorched, but it did not cause fatal injuries like in the original plot. Brat, didn't I tell you to leave? Whitebeard stared and looked at Fangya beside him. He waved his hand helplessly, and Fangya faced Whitebeard directly and said softly, "Dad hasn't left yet, how can I escape? Come on, get on the boat." Whitebeard looked at Kizaru and Aoki Pheasant in the distance, and waved the sword in his hand. He knew clearly that Fangya could not intervene in such a battle. Dad! There were loud roars from behind, and Whitebeard turned around in disbelief. Quite a few members of the Whitebeard pirates rushed over. They saw Whitebeard almost dead on the ship, and they were frightened for a while. Dad, we are not afraid of death. Dad, let us go up and destroy these navy. If something happens to Dad, I won't be able to live anymore. Even if my father asks me to leave again, I won't leave. You. Whitebeard looked at them, blowing his beard and staring. In the end, he put away his dignity and shouted boldly to the subordinates behind him. Sons, rush with me without fear of death. With a wave of his sword, Whitebeard rushed forward first. Rush. Kill. Destroy these navies. Almost everyone in the Whitebeard pirates has joined the battle again at this moment. Everyone is not idle, carrying weapons and fighting with the navy. Some of the ship's chefs even rushed forward with weapons such as kitchen knives. Terrible pirate, he still has fighting ability. King Z looked at the battlefield that was once again in chaos and sighed. My sons are all here, so as a father, I have to set an example. Whitebeard took a step forward, and the sky collapsed. Dad, deal with Akainu first. Fangya warned, and quickly rushed towards the recovering Akainu. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. Damn bastard. Spitting, Akainu turned into lava and rushed forward to meet the enemy. Whitebeard glanced at Fangya, who rushed forward, and secretly praised Fangya's courage in his heart. He also rushed forward and slashed with the big knife in his hand. To Akainu. Even though he has become an elemental, Akainu still doesn't dare to take Whitebeard's attack and keeps rolling in the smoke. Akainu, hold on. Kizaru said in a yawning tone as he kept firing golden light in his hand, trying to stop Whitebeard. Don't worry, Dad, I'll stop him. Fangya's body flashed, and he punched Kizaru's attack. Boom. Countless golden light bombs exploded in Fangya's serious punch, and he was stopped abruptly. Here you go. Whitebeard sighed in admiration and rushed towards Akainu with a terrifying attack. Ah! The casserole-sized fist, with a terrifying aura, struck Akainu alive. Puff. Akainu spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes were shocked. Unexpectedly, I would be forced to death by a group of pirates. Akainu exploded and hit another Hades. Whitebeard, who had been prepared for a long time, fought hard with him. Boom. The ground cracked inch by inch, and Marinavando Island was completely destroyed. Boom! The aftermath of the collision between the two. The solid naval headquarters behind Akainu once again had serious cracks. The entire naval headquarters collapsed, and there was no hope of reconstruction. Poof! Akainu was exhausted, and another mouthful of blood spurted out. He flew upside down, go out, and crashed deeply into the ruins, completely losing combat effectiveness. Die! Whitebeard's chest rose and fell violently. He chased after him, raised his knife and slashed. Akainu! Ao Pheasant yelled, wanting to help Akainu. Although the two have always been at odds, now it is a war between the navy and pirates, and he has to let go of his previous prejudices. Being distracted in battle is not something a general should do. Ace grinned and taunted, while his right hand was wrapped in a huge amount of flames, and he flicked it hard. Mirror fire! A wall of fire instantly appeared in front of Qingji, enveloping it with terrifying heat. Violent mouth! The huge iceberg condensed instantly to resist Ace. Zzz. The mirror fire flames were counteracted, and Qingji turned around in horror at the same time. I saw Whitebeard standing on the ruins, holding the cloud cutter in his hand high, with a terrifying look. The power of the attack struck down. Dimensional chosen, only I know Saitama is the strongest. Author, Mung Garden. Chapter 150. Sonorous. There was another deafening explosion on top of the ruins, and rubble and dust flew high into the sky. Akainu! Qingji shouted, a little desperate. Nowadays, it is difficult for the navy to resist the pirate attack. If Akainu, the navy's highest combat power, dies, then only failure will be waiting for them. General Akainu! The navy roared miserably. Akainu's death was like a pillar collapsing in their hearts. Akainu! The navy was distraught and its morale was greatly reduced. On the contrary, the pirates' morale was so high that they immediately pushed the battle line a few meters further. Whitebeard, you are old. The smoke gradually dissipated, and a pair of dark iron fists were seen blocking the sword in Whitebeard's hand. Navy hero, Garp. But, who isn't? Garp sighed softly and growled. Drink. With both fists, Garp swung the sword aside. Akainu, I can come here. Said to Akainu behind him, Garp waved his fist and rushed towards Whitebeard. Bang! Garp's iron fist met Whitebeard's fist. Garp, who was much shorter than him, burst out with overwhelming momentum, and the iron fist colliding head-on with Whitebeard's fist. A huge explosion sounded, and the two collided for the first time, and they were evenly divided. Garp, long time no see. Whitebeard retracted his fist and looked at Garp with a smile. Garp grinned and looked at Whitebeard with the same smile and said, Yes, after the battle 27 years ago, I didn't expect that you and I would both become like this. The two are old acquaintances, and even before, they fought for 3 days and 3 nights but couldn't decide the winner. After finishing speaking, Garp glanced at Kizaru, who was entangled with Kizaru, and sighed. We are just people from a previous era, what a terrible future. 27 years ago, we couldn't tell the winner. I wonder if you can beat me now. Whitebeard looked at Garp with a smile, and at the same time condensed white light in his right hand. Then try it. Come on, let me experience the strength of the strongest man in the world. Garp's fists rapped with domineering energy, fighting with Whitebeard. On the other side, Fangye was entangled with Kizaru while also paying attention to the battle on Whitebeard's side. To be honest, he didn't think much of Whitebeard. Although he is known as the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard was seriously injured in the battle just now. Coupled with his existing injuries, it is difficult to taste the benefits from Cap. You're distracted. Kizaru looked at Fangye, who was distracted, and condensed the lightsaber in his right hand. Tian Kongyun's sword. Fangye turned sideways and avoided Huang Yuan's attack. At the same time, he stepped on the Tiankonjiun sword and rushed towards Huang Yuan at an extremely fast speed. Hey, it's really scary. Huang Yuan yawned, and at the same time he transformed into elements and avoided Fang Ye's iron fist. Feeling the aftermath of Fang Ye's fist, Huang Yuan sighed. I'm a terrible young man. If I take this punch from you, I'm not sure I can stand up again, but you seem to have forgotten that physical attacks are ineffective against me. Transferring his figure into the air, Kizaru's hands once again condensed golden light. 8-foot Megatama. Boom. Countless golden light bombs fell, lighting up the world a little brighter. Old Kizaru, I said before, the power of your move is really not that good. After patting the dust on his body, Fang Ye walked out of the smoke and dust. Not only Kizaru, he also had a headache. The two fought several times, but he couldn't do anything against the other party. He was even threatened several times by the opponent's Tiankongyun sword. If it weren't for the crisis response, Fang Ye is not sure he can still stand here. Fang Ye remembers that Rayleigh once personally told Kizaru's weakness. He relies too much on the fruit. In other words, the weakness of the fruit is Kizaru's weakness. But the Kailu stone Jushao has been destroyed by Akainu, and the most powerful weapon to restrain Kizaru has been lost. Then, the only thing that can restrain the fruit is seawater. Old Kizaru, is he a little absent-minded, or is he still thinking about helping others? Fang Ye looked at Kizaru leisurely and spoke in a relaxed tone. Kizaru really wanted to help others. With his speed and ultra-long distance attack, he can definitely interfere with Whitebeard. Very smart kid, so what? Do you think you have time to help others? Fang Ye looked at Kizaru in mid-air with cold eyes and his tone was cold. You mean, you want to stop me? Kizaru looked at Fang Ye, his tone no longer as sinister as before, but full of threats. He had been delayed by Fang Ye for too long, which was not good news. Fang Ye didn't answer, just looked at him coldly. Him. Suddenly, Kizaru moved and swooped down from mid-air at extremely fast speeds. Then I'll deal with you first. Kizaru's right foot suddenly glowed with golden light, and he kicked Fang Ye in the blink of an eye. Kick at the speed of light. Bang. Fang Ye did not dodge, and was kicked hard by Kizaru's light speed kick. Kizaru's eyes shot out a ray of light, and his hands condensed. He pulled out a lightsaber and flew towards Fang Ye. Let me seize the opportunity. With a flash of golden light, Huang Yuan appeared in front of Fang Ye. Die. The lightsaber stabbed down hard and went straight to Fang Ye's heart. Hateful. Fang Ye ducked away in embarrassment, pretended to be embarrassed, turned around and ran away. While running, he taunted. As I said, your light speed kick has no power except for being a bit dazzling. Is it? Kizaru's eyes gradually turned cold, and he chased after him with the Tiankongyun sword in his hand. After being ridiculed by this unknown guy several times, even though he always liked paddling, he couldn't bear it anymore. Fang Ye fought and retreated, and soon the two of them were on the ice. Boy, let me see where else can you run. Kizaru stood in mid-air, the lightsaber in his hand zoomed in rapidly. Who said he was going to run away? Fang Ye adjusted his breathing and punched the ice at his feet. Boom. Fang Ye's fist stirred up a large number of ice chips, and a large piece of ice came out. He raised the ice cube with one hand and pointed towards Huang the ape, threw himself over. Do you think this attack will work on me? Kizaru sneered, split the iceberg in half with one sword, and flew over his head. What about this one? The iceberg cracked, and Fang Ye's figure appeared from it. He hid behind the ice and charged up a blow towards Kizaru. Ridiculous. Kizaru's body became elemental, allowing Fang Ye to pass through his body. But the next second, he couldn't laugh anymore. Fang Ye's fist shot out hot flames, melting the two giant pieces of ice above his head almost instantly. The melted ice turned into seawater and poured down on Kizaru's body. Oops! Kizaru instantly realized that something was wrong and wanted to move himself. But it was too late. The melting seawater instantly surrounded Kizaru and submerged most of his body. The next second, Kizaru felt weak all over. Followers, the seawater falls towards the ground.